Hi, everybody. This is my first live chat, so I just wanted to welcome everyone. I want to start by saying, let me tell you something I've learned after working about 30 plus jobs and across 20 or 10, 15, whatever number you'd guess, different industries. If you've ever hated your job, welcome to the club. Pull up a chair. This might be something for you. So, the first thing I want to touch upon is how the working world is a bit broken. We live in a working world where we have a urgency culture in things that aren't urgent. I've worked many different jobs. I've worked in retail and I've worked in logistics, I've worked in negotiations, I've worked in advertising, I've worked in analytics. And what I've known noticed from the more toxic environments is they have this weird level of urgency, like everything that we do is life or death, when it's not. We're not out there saving lives. We're not really even making big changes or big strides. We're just people trying to make it in this wacky world. And honestly, from my opinion, it's that level of urgency that takes place, it stinks because I feel like that causes some burnout and causes some exhaustion that is a little stressful, in my opinion. It sets you up for a situation in which, I don't know, it's just hard to maintain a level of composure because you're always on the move, you're always going, and I always tend to burn out. I don't know if this is something that happens to you guys, but for me personally, I'm a person that puts everything into their job and I give that 110%. So because of that level of urgency and because we're tasked to do these things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, it sucks. It puts us in a place where we're struggling a little bit after a while. And the thing that my wife pointed out to me is so many of these jobs that we work in today's society. Like, fun fact, I'm not a huge fan of Friends, but I think this is the best description of what most people work in today's society is Chandler jobs. These jobs where you get paid, I guess, a decent amount with no real function or purpose. It it really is something to behold because these jobs that we have, they they don't hold any value, and yet we keep on working them, and I feel like we lose our sense of purpose and value on while working them. I know me personally, when I was working, especially in like data analytics and moving from one spreadsheet to the next, it it really didn't create any sense of joy enjoyment. Like I couldn't describe to people or couldn't explain to people what I was doing while I was working that job. Like I know I remember my mom always used to ask me when I would work at these nondescript, non-function jobs, and I would always tell her I do the thing at my work that I get paid to do. And I never could come up with a real function or value of what I was doing because quite frankly, I didn't even know what I was doing there. I felt like I was just literally going through the motions and kind of not finding my purpose, as it were. And the thing that always surprises me is in this work culture that we live in, teachers, nurses, service workers, they're all so undervalued and underpaid, while these business tycoons and financiers make make these big bucks when I don't even know what they're doing. Like I couldn't explain to you what a CEO does. If and like I obviously I've never been in the position of being a CEO or anything like that, but obviously, they're making decisions on the day to day, right? But does that warrant millions of dollars and a higher percent pay than the frontline soldiers that, in my opinion, create the most profit and value in the company? No, it doesn't. It's very backwards and very very strange that this is how the world works. And you know, the thing about this value that we put into the world is, I remember when I've been working all these different jobs, and one of my buddies told me, he said to me, he said, after I released my book and started to get my name out there more creatively, he said, like, even if I don't excel at this, maybe I'll find my purpose. And I feel like that's what these jobs are lacking: a sense of purpose, a sense of value for oneself. We're just kind of moving the chains. We're not really doing anything for the betterment of society. We're just kind of there. And a lot of from my experience, a lot of these jobs that I've worked at have taught me different things, and then some, more ridiculous than others, but um, some really gave me values, and it didn't matter how small or big the job was from a societal standpoint. I generally feel like I learned a lot from each job that I had. Like, I remember my first ever job was an internship at a theater company. And I actually looked at some of the emails I would send. I was so inappropriate and so wrong about how I went about sending stuff, but it kind of showed me how to, present yourself in a workplace somewhat. I mean, as time would go on, I would have my first paying job, and it was at the movie theater, and it was really nice because I just at times got to shoot the shit and just hang out with my peers while watching movies. It was really pleasant. I remember when I was a busboy, it was it was really intense. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone into the restaurant industry, but man, that is a hard industry to work in. I truly applaud all my waiters, my bus boys and girls, and just anyone that is in that industry. It is brutal, in my opinion, and it was by far one of the most stressful jobs I ever had. And as time would go on, I would have other jobs. Like I remember at Amazon, they would track our piss breaks. Like that sounds like inhumane. That doesn't sound like normal treatment. And forget about just in the workplace. That sounds like treatment that you shouldn't get anywhere else. Like I don't know how they get away with this. I mean, obviously they're a giant conglomerate, so they uh they can do what they want, I suppose, but it shouldn't be this way. And my first one of my first real jobs, I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch. I was a manager there, and yeah, there were a lot of goof off moments, a lot of wacky times had, and I was probably inappropriate in sometimes. But as funny as it is, I actually learned how to be a manager there. I hired people, I fired people, I had those stern talks with kids, and I was just a kid at the time. It was a surreal experience, and it really taught me how to kind of grow up a bit because it was right after college, and it kind of felt like my 5th year of college. It felt like, some extra school, and then after that, I went into the city for an analytics job, and it just mind-numbing. If I ever do a live stream about mental health, I'll I'll go into that industry more because obviously I had mental breakdowns when I was in the city, but from a work standpoint, I remember one day of work where we just watched uh, an 8-hour PowerPoint, and it just was so irrelevant and so useless, in my opinion. But it was there. It was the entire day's work, and obviously, some people, I feel like I'm working the Penske file in Seinfeld, and some people might like that, but for my purposes, I just felt drained after, like I was in prison. And there were just days at that job where I would just do data sets and pivot tables and sitting at my desk for hours on end, and then the meetings that could be turned into emails, just mind-numbing stuff. And it just hurt after a while. I don't really understand why we continue to continue to work on these kind of jobs because they just they just don't seem to do anything positive for the human psyche. They're just mind numbing, in my opinion. And after I would work that, I really wanted to find some fulfillment. And I'm only going through a portion of my job, so just bear with me. But there were moments where I worked at a YMCA, and obviously I was like 30 plus years old. I was working with a bunch of high school kids and the senior supervisor, but it was so fulfilling. It was so great working with kids and doing their homework and like playing basketball with them. And I remember like I lost to a game of horse with one of the kids there. And I like I remember there were these two kindergartners this one time that they asked me when my birthday was, and one of them was, and they both were like, let us guess, and then one guessed November, and the other guessed 23rd, which is my exact birthday, and it was like, there's no way they could have gotten that information. Just kids are just like magic within themselves. And then I would work another job where I was a job coach for a while, which is complete and utter irony because you know, I can't maintain a job. I've worked over 30 plus jobs, so it's comedy that I'm going to tell you how to maintain and go about your career. But I was good at it. I Something about me that you should know is not to toot my own horn, but I do have a way with people, and I do understand that there is something about me that does resonate with folk, and I feel like I do for the most part bring out the best in people, or at least I try to. And I really got some heartfelt moments with a lot of my consumers there, and it really I felt made me a better person working that job. But besides the jobs that I've worked, I also just don't understand in the working world the corporate cult, if that makes sense. From my experience, company men are the worst breed of co-people there are. And what I mean by that is someone that would put the company over a fellow coworker. Because at the end of the day, these companies will chew you up and spit you out. They don't give a fuck about you. But for some reason, these people choose the company just to get a little bit ahead. It's normal people screwing over normal people, and I've never understood that because it's just not something I would do, I guess. But so many people do it, and there was this one instance that really rubbed me the wrong way, where I had this I had this guy, and we were working in a recruiting agency, and for some reason our hours were 10 hours a day, which is, in my opinion, insanity to begin with. And if you're working a 10-hour day, I am deeply sorry for you. But it was 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and they were switching it to 9 hours a day. They're switching it to a 9 to 5. And there was this one guy in the meeting that refuted it and said, I personally think we should work 10 hours a day or maybe even more because we're a customer service industry. And it was just so shocking to me that it's like, dude, do you hate your wife? Do you hate your kids? Like, why would you even say that? Like, what did you gain from doing that? Where we were a salary organization, so it's not like you're making overtime. Like, it just didn't compute with me. It was like an alien spoke in the room. And at that same job, I actually got fired, and this was the only time I've ever got fired for performance reasons. And they said I didn't exceed the KPIs. And it was funny because I looked at the KPIs and I did actually exceed them, and I had the metrics written down and stuff like that. And their direct words were after they fixed what they said was, I wasn't cut out for it and I didn't fit the company culture. So, sometimes I'm glad I don't fit the company culture because these corporations, these places, just man, they're so freaking toxic, bro. And I just want to clarify that in the traditional office work, especially when you're working the TPS reports or the the non-function Chandler jobs that none of us really can explain because I've worked them too. I'm right there with you. I'm not trying to belittle anyone or anything like that. I think we can all agree, especially if you've worked those other jobs like retail, food, labor. they actually work harder. I mean, maybe from a soul-sucking perspective, it's mentally draining to work those office jobs, but I remember I was working at Five Below, and I was just exhausted the entire time. Like I would after I would finish a shift, I would come with aches and pains, and they would work me to the bone, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. I was their employee, but I'm making minimum wage there. The other jobs making like, a lot more than minimum wage, and I'm just sitting in a chair typing on a computer. Isn't it so strange? So just a word of advice for someone who has been in most of these industries. Tip your wait staff, thank your postal worker, respect your janitor, do the right things by your service workers. Because whatever they get paid, trust me, it's not enough. These are the people that keep the world going, in my opinion. Because if all the financiers and all those stockbrokers and stuff like that, they all went, that's all well and good, and maybe the stock market would collapse. But if the grocers and the people that were running like the grocery store and the post office and stuff like that left, I don't know. Sounds like world would be in shambles to me. Just food for thought. So as far as what I've realized is I've noticed when it comes to work, there's a lot of importance in who you work with versus what you do as well. So when I wasn't working those traditionally function jobs that I couldn't really explain, I usually did have entourages and I usually had friends and I usually had people that would tag along with me and join me in my endeavors. And I feel like that is a big part of joining the proper job, who you work with. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you can't control what you're going to do on a job, but working with the right people, getting those few jokes in that help you get through the day, eating lunch with your buddy or whatever the case may be, it helps. So try to make friends with the people at work. I always try to make some sort of peer at whatever job I have, always pick up a straggler here and there. It goes a long way, guys. As far as mental health and burnout, I've had manic episodes because of this. I've been hospitalized. I've had panic attacks, depressive spirals, dead ends, but I'm here, guys, and I'm still swinging. I know there's no cure all for all this stuff. I know a lot of this is really tough to manage, especially if you have a mental health condition yourself, or even if you don't. It just the working world is a cruel place. But keep going, guys. I'm right there with you. I'm not physically with you, but I'm always with you. And we could do this together. I really hope that we all get to a place where we find whatever our job purpose is, or soul purpose, or whatever deeper purpose that we're trying to find is, because I feel like that's a big part of the career that we really want. It's not necessarily what we went to college for or what we're working now. It's what makes us happy at the end of the day. So some big lessons I want to go over with you is know your worth. At the end of the day, knowing what you're worth and what you're capable of is one of the most important things you could do at a job. And I'm not just talking about from a monetary standpoint. I'm talking about if they're treating you like shit, if you don't feel comfortable in the job, if you're overworked, overtired, in my opinion, fuck it, bail. There's always other jobs out there, guys. As much as they say there isn't, be resilient though. Keep going. I personally heard this line, the "Know Your Worth" line, when I was working a negotiations and logistics position, and at the time, my my buddy my buddy told me that I should work a job that really makes me feel fulfilled and really makes me feel special because I quit the place. I didn't want to work it anymore. And from my perspective, I did really find what I'm worth. And I didn't find necessarily the cure-all job yet, but I did find peace in myself knowing that I could keep trying and keep moving forward. Another piece of advice is you're not an underachiever. You're playing in a broken system. In my opinion, everyone that gets up each day and goes to work, regardless of what job it is, even the Chandler jobs, it's an achievement. It's really hard to continue to keep doing that every single day. In some ways, I applaud you a lot more because I struggle with just maintaining a job period. So I really do tip my hat off to you if you've been working that job for 10 plus years just to put food on the table and stuff like that. It's not easy. And there's this that great Simpsons episode where Homer realizes that he's stuck at the nuclear power plant and he paints all those pictures around what Mr. Burns says, and it says that he's stuck here forever. And what he does is he paints the pictures around it and he says, "Do it for her." And I feel like that is really important to stand by. You're you find your reason to do what you need to do and keep going. Every one of you are achieving at the best of your abilities, and I applaud every one of you for doing so. And the last lesson I want to go over is follow your passion, not their plan. A lot of us, I feel like, tend to follow a plan that was given to us by maybe our parents, by an idea we had of ourselves when we were kids, a idea that we did for monetary purposes. I personally just don't agree with that. And you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. I'm wrong on multiple accounts, but for my purposes, I like going at the beat of my own drum. There was a small seminar I did at my last job where we talked about the road less traveled, right? And in the road less traveled, obviously, you take the path that people typically don't take. And I feel like following your passion is that path because it's a scary thing. Because obviously, your passion may be filled with hardships, and whether it be a creative or just more in engaging career than the career that you may have came upon in an easier manner. I get it. It's definitely tough, but I recommend to do it. You got nothing to lose, guys. All you have to lose is time, and since time is an infinite on this planet, Might as well go for the goal. So the thing I ask of you, uh, guys, and I want you to pick one thing you'll do this week to invest in your dreams, whatever they may be. I really would love for you to invest in whatever you feel is necessary to get to whatever level you want to get to, and just do one thing, even if it's just writing something down. Just take that first step. And also, if this hit home, subscribe. Let's build a community together. Community of all the people that have had a lot of jobs or even maybe one job, whatever the case may be. Thanks for watching my live stream, guys. Peace and love to you all.